Hello, dear friend. Before we dive into today's really inspiring interview with Laurie Lee, I want to share something important with you. If you're a woman entrepreneur who is making over 100,000, maybe 250 or 500 a year, and you feel like you're spinning your wheels, you're working really long hours, overworked because your team isn't picking up the slack, or maybe you don't have one yet, if you're not paying yourself enough, and definitely not taking enough unplugged vacations, this episode is for you. Laurie was exactly where you might be right now. Overworked, working evenings and weekends, and really just unsure about how to scale, even though her heart knew she wanted to scale. But after joining us in the Bold Heart Leverage program, she went from barely scraping by at 100,000 to 500,000 in yearly revenues with over 500 clients, working less. She now has a team of 10 and she takes Fridays off. She's even taking full weeks off each month to travel with her daughter, and her business runs beautifully without her. If you're here, you probably have a dream for your business that looks a little bit like this. And this isn't just a dream. You can have this too. This is what we do at Bold Heart. So as you listen to this inspiring episode with Laurie, I want you to think to yourself, what if this could be possible for me too? Or at least the version that I would want for myself. Allow yourself to imagine that for your own business and your own life. And when you're ready, I'm here. Just reach out. So now, on to this week's episode. I hope you love it. Hello, everyone. I'm so delighted to have you here so that you can meet and get inspired by Laurie Lee. Laurie, welcome.
Hi, Fabienne. Thank you for having me.
It's truly my pleasure. Would you please share with everyone listening today, what is your business and what was your situation like before you jumped into this container that is Bold Heart to work on your business? Just share with us so we get some context.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm an attorney. I'm a business attorney, and I've been practicing 20 years now. But at the time, I had been practicing about 15, maybe 14 years, and had just recently started my own practice. So I had come from big firm, working long hours, and wanted something different, and had decided to start my own practice. And I found it to be much different than I thought it would be. And my first business coach that I hired actually was just for attorneys. And I was really struggling. I was 2.5 years in, was really struggling with trying to figure out how this whole business side of things work. As a business attorney, you would have thought that, I might have been clued in on these things, but it's a whole different world being a business owner than a business attorney. And it was just a real struggle with many different things before I found.
What were those things? What wasn't working, or what was the struggle?
Yeah, so I was learning all of these components of a business and how you put the business pieces together, how you do the marketing, how do you deal with clients, how do you structure your services, how do you charge, all of these things. But it just wasn't gelling together. Like I was learning them, but it was more of like this rah, rah, hard, like shark type business atmosphere. And it just wasn't sitting well with me. It felt awful, really. And then I found you, and you have a much different outlook on business, and you bring the feminine into things, and that just put the pieces together for me so that they clicked, and I just felt better about everything. And that's when things started happening.
So because you were overwhelmed, I don't know if you used that word, but
I was, for sure.
Okay. Were you working evenings and weekends?
I was, but I was spinning my wheels. So I didn't have enough clients to really get everything up and running. I had enough to kind of squeak by, but I was focusing on things that just weren't going anywhere, and my energies were being wasted. So while I was working, and it felt like I was just putting all of this effort and energy into things, the ball just wasn't rolling very fast.
Yeah. So you're giving all of yourself to something that's producing underwhelming results. So like you're overwhelmed, but you're underwhelmed by the results.
And I was listening to all these voices in the community, like, the coach that I was with at the time and the other, attorneys basically. And it was just this really harsh energy around it. And I think I was resisting that as well. So there was all this other type of, it was not a good place to be.
Yeah. But you were making good money. I mean, just to give some context of the before and after, are you willing to share a little bit about
Sure.
what you were
Yeah.
generating at that point?
So it's just a little over 100,000 when I
Right.
came into Bold Heart. So I was making enough to get by, and it was me and one assistant at the time. She was part-time. And, at that time, I really desperately wanted to grow. I had this vision of the firm the way I wanted it to be. I knew who I wanted to serve, and I felt really passionate about it. The pieces weren't coming together very well.
So let's first fast forward to today.
Mm.
In the collective time that you've been in Leverage, what have you been able to create in terms of new results, or just like, what's your situation like now?
Yeah. So now we're almost at 500 clients.
Wow.
And we're at 500,000.
Wow.
So, that's really where the sweet spot starts to feel really good. We've got a built out team. We have about 10 positions. Some are part-time, some are full-time. And I've got this internal model that feels really good and is in alignment with what I want, and an external model that we kind of serve our clients in the way that I want to serve them and the way that I feel is beneficial for them. And, the systems are running and all the pieces are fitting together. And I'm not saying everything's perfect all the time because,
It never always is perfect for anybody.
Right,
Let's be honest.
There's always something to work on, but it's like a system now, and the pieces are put together, and it feels amazing.
Wow, to go from 100 to 500,000. I presume you're working less than you did before.
I am actually.
How
I
so?
am. So I don't work at night. Anytime after 4 o'clock in the day is usually when I'm kind of starting to shut down. We don't work on Fridays. I don't work on Fridays. And, there's times where I take weeks at a time off. One of my daughters is a national level swimmer, and we travel with her on a monthly basis. So there's usually 5 or 6 days every month that I'm not even in town or working. And it's great. The freedom is amazing. And everything just keeps going. Like, it's not like when I just step away, everything falls apart and stops happening. No, clients keep coming in the door. They're engaging us. The team is putting them in place, and they're being served whether I'm sitting at this desk or not.
I'm overcome with, I have chills, I have emotion because, as you know, this is what I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Day in and day out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get old to hear these results. It's just
Right.
like, this is what we want. We want to generate more. We want to create more impact. We want to have more time off. We want to take more unplugged vacations, be with the people we love. This is what matters to us, especially women in business. How did you do it? Now, the person who's listening to this is probably thinking, okay, so what happened that made you go from overwhelmed, overworked, maybe even underpaying yourself and not taking vacations to all of this? What did you leverage? What did Bold Heart teach you that you put into place that worked for you?
I would say that there was definitely some techniques, like things I didn't know how to do that I learned how to do, which was great. That wasn't the majority of it though, because, you hear things, you read things, you can read books and you can be told strategies and techniques and things, but it's putting it all together that really is where I needed help, because it's about mindset. There's some spirituality in it, and, about learning about yourself and, your worthiness and how you interact with the world. And all of that matters in business. I mean, people sometimes think that that's so woo woo. That's like way out of why are you even talking about this in the same sentence as business? But it goes together. And, coming from such a hardcore profession like law, where it's really masculine and it's all about do, do, do. And, there's not a whole lot of spirituality in that profession. That piece was totally missing before I met you. I mean, it was like not even in my mind. And, as I started learning from you and others in Bold Heart community, I realized that, I've got a lot of work to do on myself as well. And that's really the critical piece that I think allowed me, by working on myself, it allowed me to put these techniques in place that I was resisting. These things that I was seeing as obstacles in my mind, like, oh, I can't get that many clients in a month. Oh, I can't have that much revenue. I can't hire that person. How am I going to afford to pay for that person when I hire them? I started realizing that these other ideas in my mind, these limiting beliefs in my mind, were telling me these things that weren't true. And by working through those and seeing other people in the Bold Heart community working through those and doing things, that I was like, wait a minute, my limiting belief said that couldn't happen, yet she's doing it.
Right. It's what I call the popcorn effect in the sense that when a woman joins our community, it's like, when you're making popcorn in a real pan, not like the microwave or Jiffy Pop. You put the lid on, the popcorn's in the oil, and all the corn kernels don't pop at once. It's like usually like one pop. And it's the same thing that happens in our community is like a woman will come in and, she's doing the thing. She's coming to the trainings, the Q&A calls, all the daily accountability and all that. And then all of a sudden, pop, she sees this other woman get like you to 500,000 or to do 100,000 in a weekend or just take 8 weeks of vacation without really bringing her laptop. There's this thing that happens to a person when they see other women in the program experiencing that. They start to believe it for themselves and they shift internally in a way that no amount of talking or teaching will give that belief until she sees another woman and then pop and then pop. It's not all at the same time. And it creates this, I love to talk about self-image. It shifts us and what we believe to be true for ourselves. I really appreciate that you brought up mindset and you brought up the internal work and sometimes the spiritual growth that comes from doing business the way we teach it, because it's not just the strategies. If it were just the strategies, everyone would be at 500,000 or 1 million a year, right?
I mean, people can read your book, which is
Right.
amazing, by the way, and they can learn these things, but you don't implement them or you don't put them together in ways without that additional piece of magic or whatever you want to call it,
It's understanding. So you need the strategy, you need the roadmap, right? Here's how you hire a team that stays with you. Here's how you create systems, like you said, so that everything runs smoothly and you can take Fridays off and go take 5 or 6 days off a month. Here's how you market to get, 500 clients without you doing all of the work. There's all that strategic technique that most people don't know what they don't know about, if that makes any sense. But there's a way that we get in our own way that, me? Could I be at 500,000? Could I be on my way to 1 million? How do I get in my own way? What are my beliefs? What are my fears? What is my self-image? What is my deservability, my worthiness? All of that is grossly underrated by most of the programs, if it's okay for me to say.
Yes, very much so.
Tell me about the community at Bold Heart and how it's helped you. Sometimes people underestimate the power of an incredibly generous, loving business community of other ambitious women with big hearts. How has this community helped you create the results you're experiencing now? And I'm sure down the road, you'll create even bigger results. What's it done for you?
It's just introduced me to other women who are doing it. I mean, and working on it. And when we're together and we're sharing our stories or our challenges and or our wins and what we've accomplished, I mean, it just makes you feel so amazing. Not only to hear them, but to know that like I'm in this community with these women who are doing these amazing things. And it just reminds you, being a business owner is lonely sometimes. Even when you have a team of people, it's lonely because you're the one making those decisions. You're the one facing those obstacles. But when you're in the Bold Heart community and you're sharing that and you're realizing, she's going through the same thing I'm going through, and this is how she handled it. That's an idea I didn't have. That's amazing. Or just to be able to share your feelings and get the support. I mean, I can't even explain what that feels like. It's just And then it feels amazing when you're sitting there and you're listening to someone else tell their story and all the things that they've accomplished. You're just like, wow. I mean, wow, I can do that too.
I can
So
do that.
it's motivating.
Yeah, and I think there is this incredible encouraging environment in the sense that what I've witnessed with you all in this lovely container that we have is that you want her success, sometimes even more than she sees it for herself. And she wants the same for you. And it's this incredible community of everybody wanting everybody to win. This rising tide lifts all boats, like where there's deep celebration and zero resentment or why is she creating results
Mm.
and I'm not there. There's none of that. It's
None of
amazing.
it. You don't even feel it. It's not like there's even an undertone of, you kind of sense that from someone. There's none of it. I mean, everyone is just so amazingly supportive and you make friends. Like I've got friends that will be lifetime friends that I met
Yeah.
through Bold Heart that don't even live near me and we still keep in touch and it's amazing.
Yeah, so amazing. This whole idea of normalizing women at a million and being feminine and not going for the jugular and not, becoming masculine. Hey, we all appreciate a little bit of hustle, doing a little bit of, cash injection or all of that. But in the end, it's really nice to be on a loving path with other people to create epic results. Sometimes there are women who hear about this and they don't know, they don't necessarily think they are cut out to create new results. They don't know if they have the time for something like this. And you've been in this community for several years. What have you noticed? Like, what would you say to that woman who says, I don't know if I could create the results that Laurie created, or I don't think I could ever take a week off every month. My business, I don't think it would work for me, or I don't think I have time. What would you say to somebody like that, knowing on the other side what it looks like?
Yeah, so I'm thinking back to my very first year in Bold Heart. I remember specifically these women, and I would listen to them talk about their business, and I was just like in awe. I'm like, how did they get there? That just seems impossible to me for them to be there. They have so much together. They're like one particular had this marketing machine that was just so well built out. She had so many lead generations, like all these things, and I'm just learning. Like I was just starting. I had a website and a blog and that was it. And I was just so impressed by her. And I remember thinking to myself, am I ever going to get to that? Like, is that ever possible for me? And by just asking the question, my mind started thinking, well, it could be. But you know what? It's not going to happen tomorrow. And it's not going to happen next week or next month. And it might not even happen next year because you know what? I'm going to ask her, how long did it take you to put this together? Well, lo and behold, it took her some time to put together. Well, I understand now that's going to take me time. So by rationalizing that, like reasoning it through, like I know I'm not going to snap my fingers and have what they have, but by taking one step next and then the next step and talking to the people and getting some advice and some support and some strategies, I realized like now I have a marketing machine that's very similar to what she had. And that like I'm speaking and I have lead generation and I have landing pages and I have all like newsletters and social media pages and all these things that just run, but it took time to put those things together. And, I'm thinking of this other business owner who was well over a million. And, she's talking about the amazing team she has in place. And, at the time I had a part-time assistant and I'm thinking it was hard to hire her. And I didn't think I could afford her. And like, I don't know how to manage her and I don't know how to do all these things. And she was talking about this person does the onboarding, that she doesn't even train anybody anymore, that they just come in and they like read the stuff and they, basically fit into the team without any effort on her part. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, like, how does that even happen? And again, it plants the seed of like, this is what I'm working towards. And yeah, I know I'm not going to have it right now. And I know I have these thoughts that say, oh, that's never going to happen for you. Like, but then there's this other part of you that's like, but I want that to happen for me. Like, is that what I want? But I know I'm thinking, well, maybe that can't happen for me, but I want it. So what am I willing to do to take that step forward? I just take one step and then the next step and then the next step. And then lo and behold, I realized this like a couple months ago, like we have an operations manual now. When we onboard somebody, they read the whole thing and train themselves. I'm realizing like on my latest hire was an executive assistant. I did zero training for her. And I'm remembering this woman and I remember exactly what she looks like, exactly where she was sitting in the room and everything. And I'm thinking, it just takes a build, and you love to say this, like the day you plant the seed, is not the day you eat the fruit.
Yeah.
So it takes time to do that. And I think that's where I would say if you're sitting there saying, oh, this will never happen for me, if it's something you want to happen for you, you just take the steps.
Yeah, I think I agree with you 100%. I think in our culture, especially with a lot of marketers who, I often talk about how when I was in my teens in the 80s, my mom had a cassette or something that was like thinner thighs in 30 days. And there's this thinner thighs in 30 days, get to 1 million in 12 weeks kind of culture out there. And that puts a lot of pressure on people. And I really appreciate that you're almost taking the stress and the overwhelm away. And you're just saying, hey, put one foot in front of the other. Get the right roadmap guidance, get the right mindset, get the right accountability, get the right community, and also give yourself some grace because you still have a life and you still have a business to run. And the business coaching can't be a full-time job. So I love that you're normalizing that it doesn't have to happen in 12 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. Last question. What's the future look like for your business, Laurie Lee? Where do you think you'll be in 18 months to 3 years, revenue-wise and business-wise?
Yeah, so I think Bold Heart has really given me the courage to dream bigger than I was dreaming before. And so my business model has definitely evolved in that respect. And the courage to serve more people than we currently serve. So I said we're almost at 500 clients. I see that in the thousands, like multiple thousands. And the way we're doing that now is we're putting systems in place now that are going to bear fruit later, and that we can serve that many people in a new way. And so that's what I'm learning, and having the ability to leverage technology and all of the new things that are coming out and to be able to serve more and more people. So, we'll have many more attorneys and many more clients, and the firm will just get bigger, but not that big firm kind of like in it, serving people in a really, really intimate way that they.
When do you see yourself getting to 7 figures, 1 million in the business?
Oh, that's probably going to be in the next year and a half. Yeah.
I know it. I feel it. I feel like 12 to 18 months.
Yeah,
And
for
you'll be
sure.
at 7 figures. Just jumping in here for a moment and hoping that this is really inspiring you to think differently about your own results and perhaps starting to imagine that you could make twice as much, 5 times as much like Laurie's making, working half the time. Like I said earlier, this is what we do at Bold Heart. If Laurie's story is lighting up a fire in your belly and you're actually starting to wonder, could this be for me too? Could I have more money, more impact, more downtime, more freedom? Then let me lovingly say to you, it's time to stop trying to do it all on your own. If you could have done it, you would have done it. You're really smart. You're driven. You're an achiever. And sometimes we just need to get access to all of the things that we don't know exist. The truth is, the formula for you to scale your business with your life back already exists. So do the systems and the team structure, the roadmap, and yes, even the mindset required to scale with greater ease. When you have access to all these things, you can let go of the control and take the necessary changes to feel more abundant, more easeful, and more expansive. My point is, you don't have to try to figure this out on your own. If you're ready to experience this kind of growth in your own business with more freedom and more support and more ease, with a sisterhood cheering you on, let's talk. I want to invite you to book a Get Acquainted call. We want to find out more about your business. We want to hear what's working, what's not working, what you dream of, and we'll help you map out a plan. This is what we do. And then if it feels right and you have some questions about how we work at Bold Heart, we'd be happy to answer those. So that's my loving message. You do not have to do this alone. This is why we exist. Okay, let's go back to the episode. Did you ever think you would be at 7 figures in your law firm?
It's funny because I would say that I wanted 7 figures, but again, I was not seeing how that was possible when I was back at 100,000. Like I just couldn't see how that was possible. But again, sitting here at 500,000, I see how that's possible.
Yeah.
Like you just have to keep going and taking the steps and moving forward in that direction and know that, it's there. It's on the path.
Yeah, it really is. You have inspired so many people today with your story, Laurie. I'm just so very, very proud for you. You have no idea. And I'm just championing you and will forever champion you. Just thank you so much for trusting in me and our process and for being such an incredible resource to all the other members of Bold Heart and for sharing your story today. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Fabienne. Thank you.
You're welcome.